if you want to learn more about the basics, you can look at this book. So there'll be a book signing of the surface. Surface out of the workshop. Here, my precious thing will come out. And so let me tell you what I will do today. Okay, I will share with you some of my new ideas about meaning-centered narrative therapy. Some ideas are well developed, some ideas are half-baked, okay? So you'll be guinea pig in a sense, in some sense, okay? And then we'll have a little break, and after that, we'll try to break into two groups. One group will be led by Diane Curry, and in terms of how to transform anger into poetry, right? And another group will be led by Teresa on how to transform depression or stress into something positive. So both are my students, okay? And then we'll get together. Now, my opening statement is that the days of devotion to a single school of therapy are over. Just like the days of trying to maintain racial purity are over. Just go to Hawaii or visit Vancouver. You'll find people a quarter Scottish, a quarter Indian, a quarter Chinese, like David Wood, not David Wood, Tiger Wood, right? So the trend is towards integration. Okay. So I'm a mixed-up kid. I'm a mixed-up kid in terms of ideas. I'm not clinging to one particular school. Now, how many people watch Kung Fu movie? How many people know about Bruce Lee? Now, what makes Bruce Lee so great? What makes Bruce Lee so great? Anybody have an answer?
He didn't follow any form.
He didn't follow form. Yeah, he absorbed the best from different schools and create his own. So I'm no Bruce Lee, okay? I'm no Bruce Lee, I know a little bit karate, but I'm no Bruce Lee, okay? But I'm trying to do the same in psychology. I mean, the idea is that you're trying to absorb the best from different schools and integrate. Now you can look at the source of influence. In my approach, first of all, Viktor Frankl, logotherapy and existential analysis, then humanistic existential psychotherapy, Jungian psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, life review, guided autobiography, and postmodern neurotherapy. So you can see that as I proceed with this workshop, you can detect the influences from these various schools. Now, here is the thing I'm asking you. When a client comes to your office with a presenting problem, what's your approach? Okay. Now, I listed 4 basic approaches. There are more, okay? The first approach is a medical approach, the medical model. Here, the person is inflicted with a problem. He may have brain damage, brain injury, or he has something basically wrong with the person. Okay? So in this case, we pathologize the person, right? The medical approach, we pathologize the person. There's something wrong with this person. The second approach is more like cognitive behavioral approach. Say, well, the person has a problem in certain areas, like cognitive functioning or behavioral adaptation. So let's focus on a problem area and try to fix it. There's nothing wrong basically with the person, but there's some dysfunctioning in some areas, either listening or even processing or memory or irrational thoughts. So we focus on one area. Now the third approach is a postmodern narrative approach. Is that, well, this person has a problem-saturated account. This person has a problem-saturated narrative. So the approach is try to externalize the problem, try to create some distance, some space, so that one create an alternative account, right? So that's now the last approach represents my approach, which is here's a person who is experiencing some problem as a human being. He's going through a difficult time, as we all do. Not to hear a problem story or hear a problem area. Like all human beings, like all members of human species, we all experience suffering, a problem as we go through life. So now my job will be how to empower a person to confront and transform the problem. You see the differences? Yeah? Now, where do you stand? Ask yourself, okay? Now here's some basic assumptions. Now, the first assumption is that human beings take a holistic approach. The human beings are biopsycho-spiritual beings. Okay. Now, this is a picture from this book. Okay, and now this is just my approach, trying to put a diagram of something that's actually integrated. Okay, just for analytical purposes. I mean, I don't think it's a part spiritual or part psychological. They're all related. Okay. Now, if I ask you, what is the center of human existence? What is the core of the authentic self? What is the core of your being? And nobody say the core of my being is my skin or my muscle, right? Surely go deeper than that. And it's even deeper than just psychology, right? That my deeper being is, the core of my being is deeper than my thinking or my beliefs or my feelings. So Frankl suggests that, the noetic dimension, that is where data center, okay? That involves spirituality, involving psychology. It has to do with the basic question about meaning, about who you are, where you're going, what to do with your life. Now that is where the thing is. Okay. So Frankl is saying that for therapy to be effective, we have to get down to this level, get down to the existential spiritual level. Even someone treating people's thinking disorder or irrational thoughts or maladaptive behavior, you are not getting it. You need to put people at a deeper level, okay? The second thing is that human beings have two overriding motivations: to survive. To survive. And then to find meaning and purpose for surviving. Let's think about it for a while. Here is the riddle of life. Here is the riddle of human existence. Why do we want to struggle to survive in order to suffer and die? It doesn't make sense, right? Why should we struggle to make a living? To keep ourselves alive so that we can feel the pain and go through that? That's the riddle. And Jesus said that man shall not live by bread alone. Not that Jesus said that. Many psychologists say that. Many philosophers say that. We cannot survive very well by focusing on the material. There is some spiritual need to be met. The deeper existential need to be met. We do not survive very well if our aim is to survive. That's a paradox, right? You say, oh, my game is just to survive. Oh, my life is so hard, I can't worry about philosophy or meaning. But you will not do very well. Your purpose is to survive. You don't survive very well. You need to go beyond survival. You need to have a higher purpose and meaning for your survival. Yes?
The truth of the matter is that most people don't go very far beyond that. I mean, the truth of the matter is that most people just get some pleasure out of life and really don't search for their spiritual.
You're right.
So,
yeah. So they miss out. They miss out. It's a choice. They miss out. Smart people say, life is more than just eating pleasure. I want more. See? I want to go beyond pleasure and survival, the pleasure principle. Okay? Now, number 3, human are meaning-making and meaning-seeking creatures who live in a world of meanings. Now, in that sense, I'm similar to social constructionists or constructivist psychology. But unlike them, I would say reality also matters. If you don't believe me, just watch A Beautiful Mind. Okay? So see how far a story can carry you. Right? You're more than your story. And fourthly, human beings are capable of transcending biological, environmental, historical influences, and they are also capable of transcending instinct and self-interest. Now, this is the important point. The important point, I'll go back to that, later on, okay? And fifthly, humans have the freedom and responsibility to choose their own future because of their capacity of self-transcendence. See, if you cannot transcend biology, if you cannot transcend history, then you don't have real choice, right? Because you have a capacity for self-transcendence, and then we talk about meaningful choice, okay? And finally, human beings are capable of personal and spiritual growth and spiritual transformation. Now, this is the ultimate of positive psychology. There's a lot of talk about positive psychology. Now, they talk about naive positive psychology. Mature positive psychology will include spiritual transformation. Mature positive psychology will include the transformation of problems into opportunities, rather than, let's stay away from negative, let's focus on positive. That's naive. You can't get away from negative. The new algebra of mature positive psychology is 4 plus minus 4 equal to 8. Okay? That's mature. That's Chinese thinking. That's Buddhist thinking. That's Christian thinking. That is the thinking of all people who know what life is all about. You cannot stay away from problems. So, I don't want a problem, I just focus on the positive. Okay. Now we get on to some of the key terms. Oh no, inferences, okay. Now, how many people are familiar with Michael White's postmodern narrative? You can help me out a little bit, okay? So that I won't do injustice to him, okay? Now here's some differences between, see, Wang is not white, okay? No, Wang is not white. And here are some differences, okay? To make sure I don't miss, because it's not fair to talk about him when he's not here. So you represent him, okay? So if I miss the mark, correct me, please. Okay, Susan, okay, you do that, okay? Right. Now, I'll say that I'm more radical than White. He's not radical enough. Okay, you see why. I'm more radical than White. Wang is more radical than White, okay? Now, number two, clients are empowered to transform rather than break away from problem-saturated accounts. You know, the regular narrative therapy say, well, this person has a problem-saturated story. Let's break away from that, look at exceptions, look at alternative stories. Well, I say, well, that is a bandage. This is not, you're not solving the problem. Okay? The challenge is how to confront and transform the problem that refuse to go away. Okay, that's one point. Now, am I correct on that one? Okay, just to make sure I don't misrepresent him. Okay, number three. A new identity is based on transform problems rather than alternative exceptions. See, Michael White will say, well, look, there are times you are not getting drunk. There are times you are not setting fire on a house, on houses. So the exception. So let's build an identity about you based on those exceptions. But that identity cannot stand the test of time because the problem part is still there. You follow me? So true identity, there's nothing wrong with that. But true transformation will take into account not just exceptions, but how to transform the problem area. That's young talk about, individuation, how to integrate the negative and positive. Okay. Am I around that? Anybody question me on that?
Michael White would make exceptions. He would use the word exceptions. He would use unique outcomes. He doesn't like the word exception.
Oh, well, in many of his books talk about exception, okay? Yeah. You may know his writing use the word exception, okay? Maybe he a change. Possible, right? Yeah. But anyway, number 5. Now, here's a crucial point now. One of the main point of Michael White is that he is against meta story, universal narratives. He said, well, any universal story is oppressive. He prefers localized story, your story. Yes.
Sorry, I'm a little slow here. Back on number 4, would it be possible to give an example of a distinction between an exception to the story versus
Okay, the exception will be, for example, if you have a drinking problem, the exception say, well, think about the days when you're not drinking. Okay, when you're not smashed. You remember when you're not drinking, you're a good husband, you're a good father, right? That's exception. To try to build identity based on the exceptions. To transform approach say, I have a drinking problem. I want to transform this drinking problem into a new addiction. I'm no longer addicted to alcohol, but I'm addicted to something more exciting. Right? Everybody needs to be addicted to something, but I'm no longer addicted to this poison that's destroying me, destroying my family. I discover a new addiction. Okay? So I don't need it anymore.
How would the process be, like what is the difference?
We'll see. We'll go. Right now, just I'm telling you, okay, I can't. I just identify the differences. Okay. So the idea in the back to number where am I lose track. Well, 5. Thank you. My approach is the opposite. I say, well, matter theory is liberating. Rather oppressive. It's liberating. If you look at a myth and look at meta stories, there are stories about gods and demons and heroes. A lot of the narratives, meta narratives, are about heroes who have gone before us, who have gone through the suffering, the temptation, the failures, and found redemption. I found success. I found victory. Surely we can learn from some of the heroes that come before us. Right? You choose your hero. You choose the meta narrative. I don't impose on you. What the meta theory does, they allow you to project your problem into a large screen, larger than life, so that you can have a new perspective about yourself or your problem. You're not trapped in the local context. Oh, my little problem, my little life. You see the difference? It's liberating. It gives you a new perspective. It injects new meaning into your suffering. You no longer see your problem as, oh, my little problem. You see the problem from a larger canvas, a larger screen, about humanity, thousands of years of humanity.
Is this similar to a kind of reframing the problem? Is that similar to that?
No. Reframing is very limited. Reframing is Mickey Mouse. Reframing is Mickey Mouse stuff. Because what it does, it tweaks a little bit with you're thinking about transformation. It's about a change of the total perspective. It's powerful stuff. You no longer look at the thing here, you go to the mountaintop and look at the things. It's far more radical, far more powerful than reframing. Transformation is powerful stuff. It allows you to see things with your eyes. Okay. You find yourself in the company of heroes. I get all excited when I talk about that, because of what they deal with Mickey Mouse stuff, right? They're more powerful tools for you to use. I'm not being arrogant. I'm just saying that I work with people. It's really powerful, that you see things in new perspective. And you're able to discover new meaning, brand new meaning. A little reframing doesn't go too far. Yes?
Babe Ruth struck out 1,200 times in order to hit 794 people.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. That's a good analogy. Analogy is always good. Analogy, simile, metaphor, powerful tool. Not like the cognitive reframing, these are Mickey Mouse stuff, okay? I'm sorry if I offend anybody, okay?
He was a strong mythological figure, Mickey Mouse.